Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for making the time after work to just come and join me for my crash course this evening. I'm Talana Simpson, and we are going to be looking at how to develop our bravery mindset, and specifically at work. I thought I'd just let you know a bit about myself if you haven't heard of me or met me before. I'm your courage coach for this evening. I've been coaching for 20 years on my own. I have a very keen interest in how we express ourselves and communicate ourselves better, but with courage. So having those difficult conversations, stepping up in front of people to do presentations, speaking up when we need to, so showing up and standing up and shining as best as we can. And with that journey, I've got to learn a lot about courage in particular, courage and confidence, overcoming the fear of failure and self-consciousness. And what I put together is something called Bravery School, where we spend a lot of time learning a lot about these concepts. I'm going to turn that on. And so in Courage School in particular, Bravery School in particular, we're looking at developing a courageous living lifestyle, if you want to call it that. So how do we live more courageously in our life? How do we actually do the things we really want to do and tackle the fears that we need to? How do we show up more fully? How do we engage with life and our relationship to the utmost, so that when we get to the end of the road, we say, I did everything I could. I did as much as I wanted to, and not feel like something was left undone or unsaid. So courageous living is really showing up and wholeheartedly engaging with what's going on with us. And what I wanted to share with you tonight is an aspect of courageous living, which is the bravery mindset, as I'm calling it. It's a way of thinking and feeling and behaving, a collection of thoughts and feelings around bravery in particular. So a mindset is this collection of what we call filters. It's our beliefs, the meanings, the intentions, the way we think and the way we process information that creates the way we perceive the world around us. It's like wearing a set of glasses that influences how you see the room around you. That mental disposition or like an attitude. So there's a collection of thinking styles and of ideas and concepts that when you look at them and use them in conjunction with each other, you tend to find that you can access your courage more, you can be more brave. And this is the first, I use these two words, but I've actually worked out that we have to understand the difference between them. Because the bravery mindset it's part of it, is understanding that bravery and courage are quite different, although they're related. So this is the gist of the distinction, is that bravery is a quality or state that we have that is just about showing strength in the face of a danger or a challenge or something that we find difficult to do. So other people in particular might look at this situation and say, that's really risky, but look how brave she was. She just, got up and did the presentation. I couldn't do that because I would need courage. Now, courage is the strength that we have to face the challenge or the risk despite our fear. So the interesting distinction is in bravery, the person doesn't necessarily experience being scared. They may know there's risks to it, but they just don't, they're not scared of those risks. Whereas courage is the strength that we can cultivate that tends to rise up within us. It gives us the ability to face the fear and do what we need to do. So with that distinction in mind, bravery is obviously, we already have it then. If we don't see something as risky, we probably do it. But there's probably areas in your work or in your life where you could be a bit more courageous. It is a bit more risky for you. It takes a bit more of your strength. So hence you might be interested in developing more courage around those aspects. In order to do that, we need to know which type of courage we're working on, because courage is just this big concept, but there's very many different types. And when we know the type of courage we're hoping to cultivate, it makes it a lot easier to find the strategy that would be useful. And the main distinction around the types of courage that we can do is look, breaking it into heroic courage versus like our everyday kind of courage. Now, the heroic courage, I put the picture there of the firemen. They are heroes, we would say. They are very brave probably because they show more bravery because they've learned how to manage fires, and they're able to run in the house and do it, get the people out of the house that's burning down. Whereas a mother who doesn't know much and who realizes her child is in that house and burning down, she would demonstrate or be able to activate her heroic courage, which gives her the strength to run into that burning building, to grab her child and get them to safety. So that's one type of courage. The other everyday courage is for everyday life. It's for how we deal with difficult conversations. Do we have the courage to actually have them? Do we have the courage to receive feedback and criticism that we know could help us? The courage to sometimes to show up at work when we're going through a really difficult phase of our lives, or the courage to do a presentation, to be the one who stands up and does public speaking. So all the, there's a lot of different aspects of everyday courage. So that's the one thing, is to understand that a lot of what we talk about is more everyday courage. And then I like this guy, Bill Treasurer. He breaks that everyday courage into like these three buckets. The one being try courage, the courage of action and pioneering. So those first attempts, initiating things, leading, trying, basically, it takes courage because there's a risk involved. Whereas there's also trust courage, the courage to rely on the actions of others, to give up control to an extent, to trust that someone else will actually meet your needs and be there. So that's another type of courage. And then the tell courage, the courage to use our voice, to speak up, to share information or ideas, to tell the truth when we have to, or to put our ideas out in a brainstorming where they could be criticized. So sharing an opinion. So that's one way you could start to look at, like, what is the types of courage that you could do a bit more with, because then it can help you to work out what might be blocking that type of courage, or what would assist in cultivating it, bringing it forth. There's also, in Bravery School, we talk about a whole lot of other types of courage. Physical is a lot of that heroic kind of courage, but even physical courage in terms of gym, to push yourself that extra bit and deal with, the pain of going to gym. And there's moral courage, doing the right thing, intellectual courage. Can we be with other people's ideas that are different to ours? Discipline courage, to, get up when we need to do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. Emotional courage is can we be with our emotions and with other people's emotions? Can we actually say and express an emotion in a way that's constructive and healthy? Social courage is a lot about making friends, networking, engaging with other people, building relationships. Creative courage is to actually put something out there in the world, to create, write a book, do the presentation, put it together, a proposal. And there's a lot of us, I've given a lot of examples of communication courage. So knowing again which type of courage always helps us to be more courageous. So then I wanted to share a bit about, if we're thinking about that, maybe you've identified a type of courage at work that you could engage with more, that would, the more you practice and develop this muscle, it would hopefully become easier and easier, and then you maybe develop more into bravery in that area. So courage is like a muscle. It's like if you don't exercise it, it becomes weaker. So the more you do small little steps that are courageous, the more you exercise in that muscle, the more you have access to your courage, the more your courage can grow, and you can actually start tackling, more bigger things in a way, because you're stronger. You've developed that ability. So there's three dimensions to courage that I want to share tonight, that really give a really good overview, but also lead to three specific strategies that we can take into work. The one is fear. Without fear, you don't have courage. You have bravery. So fear is a big part of courage. Remember, courage is the strength to the energy that you have to tackle the fear. I'll give you the overview. The other dimension is appropriate action, taking the right action at the right time and within your sphere of influence, what you actually can do, and then also higher purpose. Courage doesn't happen without some higher intention. That mother would not run into the burning building if her child was not in it. So the higher purpose of saving her child, who's very precious to her, gave her the courage to do that. So there's an element of a higher purpose in it. But if we look just a bit more at fear, one of the courses that we do in Bravery School is called Self-Leadership, where we look at developing a really strong foundation in how we can manage ourselves, manage our emotions, our boundaries with people, our relationship skills, our self-esteem and self-confidence, all of those things that give us a very strong foundation with which to then engage with the world. And it's about being very intentionally influencing our thinking and feeling and actions towards the objective of living courageously. So one of the aspects we cover in quite detail is around emotions, because emotions is a really interesting thing. If you think of a map and a territory, so I've got a lady there looking at the map, and then there's the road behind her. The road is not the same as the actual map. The map is just a representation of that road. But the more accurate that map is, the easier it is for her to get to where she wants to go. So if we understand this concept that we have a map, we have a perception of the world, we have a way of seeing, and expectations is a big part of our map, of what we expect to happen in the reality of the moment, in the actual territory in front of us. When there is a difference between what we expect and what we're getting from the reality, we experience an emotion. Emotion is the energy that we feel that tells us, hold on, what I wanted and what I'm getting are out of sync. And the positive emotions are the ones that say, keep going, you're on the right road, you're getting what you want, but the negative emotions are telling us something different. So emotions are just signals that help us to navigate through life. They help us to show us, are we on the right road? Or do we need to make some adjustment to either our map, our mindset, the way we perceive the world, or to the actual territory? Now, each emotion has a different energy to it. So fear has a very specific energy and feeling, and I'm sure we're all very familiar with what that feeling is for us. But fear is just that signal that's telling us that something that's going to happen we need to prepare for. So there's some element of risk about what we are anticipating doing. So fear is actually a very, very useful signal. It tells us that we need to be more prepared. If you're just a little bit nervous about something, you don't need much preparation. But if you are really, really, really petrified of what's happening, it means you don't have enough capacity or skills or knowledge or whatever it is. And just some preparation would go a long way in helping you manage that fear and unlocking the courage to then have the energy, the strength, I should say, to do what we need to do. So whenever that signal is there, the way to manage the signal of fear is to say, aha, I'm scared about speaking and doing the presentation, therefore I need to prepare. And once I've done my preparation, I need to have faith in that preparation. And that comes from Tony Robbins. He talks a lot about having faith in our preparation, because fear is telling us that we just need to be more prepared and then to do what we need to do. So that's the first strategy that I can really recommend that you just start to get your head around and start to apply, is that whenever something is a bit nerve-wracking for you, or in a moment where you feel like you need more courage, is just to do a bit of preparation. Even if it's a few minutes just before a meeting to just look at the agenda, it goes a long way in helping you activate your courage. So the next part is about appropriate action, because we're not talking about being silly in terms of the actions, doing something that we're not prepared for. So Aristotle has done a lot of work, and I just like the way he breaks down courage into this. He talks about the action part of courage, that is the one side is if you don't take any action, right? It's what they call a coward. You are so scared. There's so much fear that you don't have the confidence. You would rather flee the situation or totally avoid it. You can't wait till someone else puts their hand up to do the presentation and you get out of it, right? The other side of this continuum is what they call foolhardiness. This is the recklessness. This is the impulsive, that false kind of bravado. That's more of that fight response. I'm just going to go full speed into this with no preparation, no thought, and just wing it. That's also not that productive. So when we talk about courage, courage is somewhere in the middle of this, where we have enough self-knowledge. We learn about ourselves enough that we know where our strengths are, where our stretch areas are, where we can improve, where we need help. We have that wisdom, that ability to judge the situation, the context, and the discernment to know whether we need to call help in, whether this is, beyond what we are capable of, or if we could do it with someone, or if we need to do a course, or whatever it is. But it's working out what the appropriate action is. It's not just any action of, fleeing or being foolhardy. And there's one more category that I always add, which is no action, because part of there's also the courage to not do something because it's illegal or immoral or unethical. So sometimes taking no action at all is the appropriate action to take, and that can even take our courage, yeah. And then part of that is, once we know what the appropriate action is from self-knowledge and wisdom and discernment in that, is understanding how confidence works. And people confuse confidence a lot with self-esteem. And I said in the self-leadership and in the confidence mindset, I do another masterclass, which is actually coming up this week, called the confidence mindset, where we get very clear on these two concepts of self-confidence and self-esteem, because when you get them clear on the distinctions, it's much easier to develop both, and really in a strong, sustainable way. Our esteem is about our beingness, our sense of self-value, whereas our confidence is about our doing. So the only way that we can actually develop more confidence in taking that appropriate action is by taking that appropriate action. We have to practice, we have to do some kind of activity, we have to be active in it. And then the confidence comes from that. So if you haven't done many, I'm just use it as an example often of public speaking, giving a presentation or something. You should expect to feel awkward and clumsy the first time you do it. And that's why practice is so important. The more we can find a way to talk it through, find the words, structure it, practice it, you will have more confidence when you actually do it. So, yeah, so another aspect around appropriate action is around what I call risk fitness. How is your fitness in terms of taking risks? And these are like calculated risks. They're not being a foolhardy, just doing things without the preparation that is needed. So risk fitness is developing that fitness, again, that ability to take appropriate action, to manage a risk or to take a risk, to engage with something that we perceive as risky. Because that's where the fear is. So with the fear management and appropriate action, you can develop your risk fitness. So after we've managed our fear, you've done some preparation, it's to then actually start taking and work out what is the appropriate action for the situation we are preparing for. And the last aspect I want to share around this just area of courage is our higher purpose. Because as I mentioned, our courage doesn't get activated if there's no higher intention behind it. There has to be something that is wanting us to do better. So the main intention usually behind being more courageous, by even coming maybe to something like this crash course tonight, to joining something like Bravery School, or just doing some work on yourself around learning to be more courageous, is because there's a part of us that wants to grow. We have an innate instinct, a drive within us as human beings for growth. We want to be more, have more. We want to understand what our potential is and unlock it and contribute more, add some kind of value, make an impact in the areas that we can make an impact. So that drive for growth is also counteracted all the time within us by our drive for safety. We still need to be safe as we are engaging with the world. We still need a roof over our head and food on the table and a sense of emotional and psychological safety and the spaces we engage with. So we have this kind of tug war within us between we want to grow, and to grow we need to take risks. We need to do new things. That's how we find where our edge is and how much more we can actually do in that. But we also want to be safe. We don't want to do it in a way that would harm us. So courage is actually that ability we have, or it gets activated when our growth needs are stronger than our safety needs. So Nelson Gold did a lot of work around courage as well, and he calls it the energizing catalyst for choosing growth over safety needs. So it's just something to think about, is in every moment where you are to have that moment do you put your hand up to do the presentation, to be more courageous at work, or do you not? Do you shrink back? Are you choosing then growth or safety? And there's obviously nothing wrong with choosing safety, especially if the environment is not safe. But at the same time, we can use that as an excuse to not ever grow, to do it. And courage does get activated when we choose to grow, to take a risk, to do something, but in a way where, as I said, the way we prepared for it. So just getting more clear and touching base with your why, of why you want to be more courageous or brave at work. Why would you want to develop the bravery mindset and be able to apply it in your work context? It's the why of intention. What is your intention behind it? So, you may want to speak up so that you can be seen and more visible in terms of your colleagues, so that when the promotion comes, you're one of the people that is thought of. And then you go like the next level of intention. Why would you want that promotion? So that you can stretch yourself and reach new areas. And so as you go up and up your layers of intention, we call it the why behind the why behind the why, that builds up energy, builds up a sense of purpose. So really doing those few things of just when you feel like you need a bit of an oomph of courage, is to tap into your intention, your why. What are you trying to achieve? What would you get from showing up more courageously at work? What would come of that? What would be the benefits? What would you gain? All of those things help develop this part of courage, which is around our sense of purpose. So we learn to manage our fears by preparing, we take appropriate action, and we start to develop more confidence with the preparation and knowing that we're going to be doing the appropriate thing. And we tap into our higher intentions. We get clear on what it is we want to gain or will gain from showing up more courageous. Those three things together, because courage is very much what they call a gestalt. It's made up a whole lot of parts that together make this thing called courage. If you can just work on those three aspects, I promise you'll find that it's much easier to start putting up your hand or showing up more bravely at work. Although there may be a few blocks in the way, there may be a few things that hold you back. These are some of the blocks that we work through. And unfortunately, like in a crash course, I can't go through everything that I would love to share with the world. But the one is the way we've constructed our sense of self-worth. If it's a conditional way of constructing it, it can block us and hold us back. Coming from a scarcity mentality or the fixed mindset, a need to be perfect at everything, to please others, is also part of the imposter syndrome. If you know that, where you feel like a fraud and one day everybody's going to find out you don't know what it is that you're talking about or have no clue what you're doing. That imposter syndrome is a big block in terms of courage, that we actually do a 7-session course around to really shift a whole lot of aspects in there. Our black or white thinking can act as a block, where we only see one all or nothing. You only see extremes in options. If you develop, as you see now in some of the resources that we can develop, if you develop the opposite of that, which is the continuum or grayscale thinking, you have a far more choice available to you every moment that you need to do something. It's not just, do I just jump up and speak, or do I do nothing? There's a whole lot of levels in between that you can access when you develop more flexibility with the all or nothing thinking. Self-efficacy is our belief in our ability to handle things, to manage that sense of personal power. That's low, and also getting stuck in comfort zones, not having enough of a why to move out of it, or not being prepared. You know, it can be quite scary to get out of our comfort zones and that. So those are some of the blocks that may be holding you back. You may have identified one or two for yourself, but these are some of the resources that help us, that actually engage our courage, that kind of clear the blocks and allow ourselves to shine and show up and be the best that we can. So true self-esteem has no conditions to it. It is understanding our worth and value in a way that we can show up, and it's part of making that distinction between confidence and esteem. The growth mindset, I'm sure you've heard of that as well. It's a very useful way of seeing the world and seeing our innate abilities that we can always develop and grow. How do we activate that way of engaging with everything so that we can be developing and growing as we go along there, which is part of the abundance mindset as well. Instead of perfect, we should be looking for optimizing. Perfectionism is one of the most useless strategies, I should say. There is no such thing as perfect, but when you optimize, you're actually going for an excellent standard, a standard that is good enough for that situation. And good enough does not necessarily mean it's average or poor. It can still be a high, excellent standard, but that is achievable, whereas perfectionism isn't. So learning about optimizing and how to implement it. Again, the risk fitness, being fallible, learning to deal with the fear of failure, developing a sense of personal power, our confidence, our optimism. The way we explain events, do we explain them to ourselves in an optimistic style, which actually unlocks and opens up way more than the pessimistic style, and developing resilience and that grit. So all of those kind of things are very useful in helping us to access and grow our bravery mindset. They all, are involved in it some way. So some of the things you can maybe just try now in terms of exercises for that courage muscle, besides those three strategies, is just getting a better sense of yourself, where your strengths are that you can harness. Part of knowing yourself is also what are your values, what is really important to you, why do you want to grow more, how do you what would you gain from choosing more of those growth needs. So knowing ourselves and having direct experience. There's something about watching people around you. There's also role models, but knowing that right now in your life, right around you, there are moments where you can practice being more courageous in your work, in your sphere, and they're not necessarily these great big grand gestures. They can be really small little opportunities that you can exercise your courage muscle. And then looking for the role models, but also their encouragement. And I love this word because encouragement actually has courage in it. And when we encourage someone else, we are actually helping to grow the courage in them so they can do what they need to do. So finding a group of people that can encourage you and support you is a very useful way. They always say, like, watch who you spend a lot of time with. Do they pull you down, or do they lift you up? Do they support you and encourage you? In Bravery School, that's part of the idea. Is we have we're developing a community in your class. You get to know people. You can have accountability partners and find that encouragement, that sense of people who are working on the same things to support one another. embracing challenge. Thinking for yourself is more about the intellectual kind of courage. It's really difficult to not just take on other people's opinions and just go with the flow. It's quite a challenge, and to think for ourselves and be willing to share that. And the main action that I can suggest is to actually just act, to take action, to do something, to get off, when you start moving, you get out of the inertia, and you'll be amazed at how just one little step forward will show you the next step and the next step, and it does like get you going. So I'm going to sum up everything again, but I just wanted to let you know that tonight was a bit about hopefully giving you some very useful strategies and some of the ideas to start thinking about that will already start developing a bravery mindset for yourself. But also, if you are interested in learning more and going into way more detail with some of these, I'm running a special offer for Bravery School. I run 2 trainings a month on a Thursday evening, very similar to this, but with master classes are usually like an hour and a half, so it's a lot more detail and a lot of very practical. And we go, and each class kind of builds on the next. There's community like groups that if you enjoy that, there's a Facebook and WhatsApp and there's a lot of notes, and everything is recorded, and you have access to all the replays within Bravery School on the membership platform. And right now I'm offering a special of 50% off. We're doing a new intake, a new group is starting. It's actually this week, Thursday. If you can't make this week, it's fine. That's what the replays are for. But if anyone is interested, yeah, there's a special running, just to give you an idea of what's coming up, the kind of things that I think I've mentioned a few of them, is we're doing confidence mindset. There's the self-leadership, which is a 3-week. More detail going into all of the aspects I've shared tonight, but in way more useful detail around the bravery mindset. How do we become more fit in terms of taking risks? How do we access our purpose, our sense of meaning and intention that will drive our courage, the imposter syndrome, and then courageous optimism, and a whole lot more. I just thought I'd share a few things. So if you are interested, you can go to braveryschool.co.za or to Inner Coaching. It's the link there, .co.za/Bravery School has a lot of detail there. And just to share what some of the people that have been in the course of the last, I think it's 6 to 8 months we've been going. So Adam has said it's had a really positive impact on the way he sees himself, and he really enjoys the way I explain things. I try and make it really fun and engaging, and all, sort from exercises, breakout rooms, to videos and that. Natasha, through this process, actually started going for interviews and learning about bravery, and that got her to actually enjoy and show up more confident at the interviews. Chanel is in a corporate company, and she's in the training and development, and for the first time she actually put her hand up and went and led there, because they do a lot of their training online now. It's her in the green screen room. So yeah, she like she couldn't have done it without the coaching and mind shift changes. So yeah, so there is that special offer. Go to braveryschool.co.za if you'd like some more. But just to wrap up again, I mean, I'm going to hang around if you've got any questions and that. It's just, I wouldn't be much of a courage coach if I didn't suggest some actions. So just if you could think about what area of your work or what role you need more courage in, what you could do, and then just decide, commit to one action that will move you forward. If you could just now in this moment, whether it's just going to be to go and read something, if you want a particular article or something about what I've shared tonight, you're welcome to send me like an email and tell me you'd love to know more about something, and I'll send you some resources that I share around some of the topics. So that might just be your action. Send Talana a note for some more information. Do something, whether it's just to block off time in your diary to prepare for the next meeting, whatever it is, what is it that you can, one action, because if you can put that into your diary or put it into action after this, first thing tomorrow morning, I promise you it starts that process, it gets off the inertia. So let's just pause there and see if there's any questions or any comments, anything anybody wants to know more about in terms of our crash course and our bravery mindset and those 3 strategies of managing our fear by preparing, of working out what the appropriate action is, and then doing what we need to be more confident in that action, and tapping into our higher intentions of why we need to be more brave. You know, what aspect, what would be the benefit, what would we gain, what's our intention behind developing ourselves in this way.